You've heard it before. Chinese pens, they're all cheap knockoffs. Well, today I want to challenge that. I'm going to talk about why Chinese fountain pens can actually be amazing, why they're solid, affordable alternatives, and why I think they deserve a second look. Especially if you're newer to the hobby or just tired of paying premium prices for basic features. I've got four affordable pens on my desk: a Junlai 630, two Medjon P140s, and an Asvine C80. And I think they prove that modern Chinese fountain pens can be genuinely fantastic writers, not just cheap alternatives. So let me show you why these might deserve a spot in your pen roll. Hi, welcome back to Pens and Ponderings. If you're new here, I'm Freddie, and I talk about fountain pens, stationery, and all the tools that makes writing more fun and more you. If you're into affordable pens, realistic reviews, and a little bit of penabling, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss future videos. So let's talk about their reputation first. When people hear Chinese fountain pen, a lot of them think, cheap plastics, inconsistent quality, and designs that are just copies of more famous brands. Some folks won't even try them because of that stigma. But over the last few years, I have noticed there has been a quiet shift. A lot of brands have upped their game with better nibs, better materials, and more original design choices, while still staying very budget friendly. I don't know what's going on with my voice. These four pens are great examples of that change, and I'm going to use each one to highlight a different strength. So instead of asking, are Chinese pens good? I think the better question is, which ones are actually worth your time? All right, let's start with the Junlai 630, which is basically your big statement pen at an entry-level price. So on camera, this looks and feels like kind of oversized pen you'd expect from a much more expensive brand. 10 points if you can tell me in the comments. It's chunky, it's substantial in the hand, and it has that satisfying, this is a serious pen presence when you put it down on notebook. One of the things I love about this pen is a combination of features you get here. So you get a large nib, that's a number 8 nib, a piston filling mechanism or system, sorry, I always say mechanism, and a body that holds a lot of ink. This is a sort of spec list that used to be reserved for much pricier pens. Also, I want to point out, where's my little wand, that it uses this is apparently it's unique to Junlai. Instead of a usual ink window, this is called a transparent fence. So I don't know if you guys can see it. I think I have to. You guys see that? So like for a normal transparent window, it's pretty much you can see through it. With the Junlai, it has these, looks like a fence instead of a window. so to me, it doesn't disrupt the aesthetic of the pen, right? The grip is amazing. It's pretty girthy and extremely light, so it's really easy on the hand, especially like Well, for me, like I love girthy pens because I can do long form writing on my journal without cramping. So this is a big plus for me. It's also pretty well balanced considering the weight of the nib and the size. I mean, considering the weight and the nib size. I mean, I like it also unposted because it's a pretty big pen if you notice, right? Like it's sits right there, which is my sweet spot. Like I can post it. You can post it if you want to. Like I guess that's really dependent on the user, right? But for me, I prefer it unposted. It's nicely balanced. That if I do post it, I think it might become more back heavy. As for the ink flow, oh my god, and I will show it later, but I just did a dip test on this one and it writes amazing. Amazing. It has it's pretty smooth. How can I explain it? It's pretty smooth. It has that pencil-like feel, you know, so it has a little bit of feedback, a little bit, not as obvious as a sailor feedback, but it's maybe like 2 steps down. If you dial it 2 steps, it's like that. So you can, it's not super smooth. It's not super smooth, but I love that. I love anything. I love nibs that makes a sound when I'm writing. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. So from a writing perspective, I think this one is a fine nib, by the way. I forgot to mention that. This one is, again, it's pretty smooth. It has a noticeable slight feedback, and it feels like it's not pretending to be a custom grind, but for the price, it's shockingly competent. If you're someone who has always wanted to try a large piston fill pen, but you're not ready to drop big brand money, this Junlai 630 is a really fun, low risk way to get that experience. All right, next up, let's talk about the Medjon P140, and I actually have two versions here. One is the transparent demonstrator, which I always wanted, and the vintage looking green that reminds me of the Esterbrook Back to the Land's quirky leaf. Same pen, completely different personality. So this is where I think modern Chinese pen really start to shine. You get a solid piston mechanism, you know, a comfortable body, and nicely tuned nib. Oh my god. All at a price that's still firmly in the affordable category. On the clear P140, you can see, trying to look in the camera, you can see that you can see the piston mechanism right here, which I am geeking about because it's metal. Usually the piston mechanisms are like plastic. So, and of course, because it is transparent, you can see your beautiful ink sloshing around. This is like an ink nerd's dream, you know. So if you love watching your ink level and pairing colors with your pen, this one is incredibly satisfying. And I know not a lot of people are into demonstrators, and I've learned to love them. At first, I wasn't really into demonstrators at all. I can do translucent ones, but not fully transparent ones. But slowly, I've been evolving. And now I really love them, especially this one. Really, again, you can tell it's metal because it's really back heavy. Like you can, it's nicely balanced, but it's still heavy because of that, and you can feel it. I love the trim, the gold trim on this one, right? Uh, it goes so well with it with a transparent body. For the vintage green, this one on the other hand leans into more classic, slightly retro look, right? It's got that grandfather's old pen energy, but with the reliability of a modern pen, and again, a price that doesn't make you nervous about actually using it every day. Um, the consistency on both the nibs are amazing. It wrote right out of the box, and I love how hefty it is. This one is slightly heavier, because I guess because of the acrylic body. Um, I like heavy pens. I don't know if you ever follow me before. I love heavy pens. I love the heftier pens because it's, I don't know, to me it's easier on my hand. Some people don't like it, but I do. Like it gives, like I feel like I have more control when I'm writing, and it doesn't really give me cramps or anything like that. So yeah, and then I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this one is also nicely balanced. And of course it has that number 8 nib, which I love because of the weight of it is more towards the front. So basically I'm just gonna let gravity do its thing. I don't have to press too hard, right? And it's more controlled. Again, my writing is more controlled, which I love. So I'm obsessed with number 8 nibs. In terms of aesthetics, you already know, I love pens with personality because I know I will use them, right? The demonstrator is with that gold brassy piston. Is such a vibe. I'm telling you, I love it. I love how it like matches the accents. And you know what I also noticed about this when I was like looking at it? Like they really did pay so much detail on this. Um, if you notice, the clip is completely centered with the nib, right? Because I mean, I don't know about other pens because clearly we don't, if it's not demonstrated, then you don't see what it looks like inside the cap. But this one, they really paid attention to detail to make sure that it's completely centered, right? Like no matter how I cap this, it will always be centered, right? And I like that. I like that. Like it might have been inspired by a well-known pen, but at least they did it well and not just a cheap knockoff. That's how I feel about this one. So for me, the P140 feels like a true, I'm gonna say, daily driver pen. It's not just good for the price, it's just good. If someone told me that this was their main work or school pen, I would completely understand. And this is where that narrative about Chinese pens starts to fall apart a bit. When you have a piston-filled, comfortable, reliable writer like this at this price point, it's really hard to justify they're all junk mindset. the last pen on this lineup is the Asvine C80, and I think of this as the EDC of the group. I also may have been late on this trend, as I have seen this in several YouTubers already. But where the Junlai 630 is big and bold, and the P140 has this slightly more classic vibe, the C80 is clean. It's very modern and very easy to live with. It uses a standard cartridge converter setup, which means it's very easy to fill, and cleaning is and easy to fill, and cleaning is straightforward, and also obviously more beginner friendly because it's just no fuss, right? In the hand, I think I got all fine on this one. Yeah, I think this is a fine nib. It's pretty well balanced. It really actually, it's very light too. It reminds me of Maker's pens, and which to me it's. Do I have a Maker's pen with the number 8 nib? I think I do. From Relic, if I'm not mistaken. But this one reminds me, this whole thing reminds me of the Zodiac pen from Bart. I think this one is... I can't remember which one is this one. Which style. But don't they look the same? Right? Both torpedo shape. This one's just slightly bigger, but design-wise is exactly the same. So if you hand this to me without telling me what it is, I would think it is a Maker's pen. Yeah, it's very similar on the way it writes, the way it holds. But you know, that number 8 nib again, it's that makes it special. So I think this is a good starter pen because again, it uses a cartridge or converter. You get that nice resin with the number 8 nib, so you can't go wrong with that. It doesn't have a clip, but in my opinion, because I don't use clips for its intended purpose, to me it's just an accent, right? So I can live without it. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, so yeah, I really think this is a perfect beginner's pen, if you ask me, because it's very, very affordable. And I just can't believe that this is a Chinese pen, because again, it reminds me of Maker's pens. You get that nice resin with some chatoyans at that, so I don't know, this blew me away, and no wonder there is like a subculture in the fountain pen world that swears off by this pen alone. So yeah, so for me, this is the pen I'd hand to someone who used gel pens or roller balls and just want something a little nicer without the fuss of the complex filling system. It's definitely approachable, it's comfortable, and it still feels special enough that you know you're using a fountain pen, not just another disposable. So, what do these four pens together say about affordable Chinese pens? Well, first, they show that you can get genuinely interesting designs and features, like pistons, larger nibs, demonstrator bodies, vintage inspired colors without spending a fortune. Second, they give new fountain pen users a way to experiment. Like, to me, that's really important. You can try a big pen, you can do a piston filler, a demonstrator, without committing to a high-end purchase right away. And personally, that lowers the barrier to entry in such a big way. And finally, I think they prove that Chinese pen does not automatically mean disposable junk. Are they still bad ones out there? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's true of every market at every price point, right? If you're willing to do a little research, you can find pens that are not just good for the money, but just plain good. But for a brief downside and a little bit of honesty moment, right? I do want to acknowledge a couple of caveats. Quality control can still vary more than with some of the long established Western brands. You might occasionally get a nib that needs a bit of smoothing or tuning before it behaves perfectly. And some designs from various brands are still a little too inspired by for some people's comfort. So if that's something you care about, it's worth looking closely at each model and deciding where your own line is. But when you do find models like these where it all comes together, like the design, the writing experience, and the price, or the excellent price point, it's hard to ignore how much value is on the table. All right. I'd love to know your experience with affordable Chinese pens. Do you avoid them completely? Have you tried any of these? The Junlai 630, the Majon P140s, or the Asvine C80? Or do you have other favorites that surprised you? Let me know in the comments. I always get great recommendations from you. If you found this helpful, give it a like, maybe share it with a friend who still thinks Chinese pens are terrible, and subscribe if you want more videos on affordable pens and stationery. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.